Well, Dragonfolk, it looks like there's some drama on the horizon for Magic the Gathering, and it has to do with all of your favorite format. Dragonfolk, welcome on into the channel. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I know I am. I'm so happy to see you here. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Today, we're talking about Commander and the nonsense that you see on Twitter. So, I was at work, found out this little article from MTG Rocks, which I'll leave in the description down below, which goes over a tweet that was done by a Perks Alert. Perks Alert is a former pro Magic the Gathering competitor. He really played in a more competitive format. And they had made a tweet today talking about this. I'd always thought Planeswalkers were the worst thing to ever happen to Magic the Gathering, but I think they have finally been overtaken. Commander. So, from the way that sounds, it sounds a whole lot like this person is salty that they lost in Commander, but they have some pretty good points in regards to it, and it turns out that while it's not a ton of people, there is a dislike to Commander. It is a minority of all things, but there is a dislike to Commander based on quite a few things. Not just the format, though, right? The format doesn't have a problem. Nobody has a problem with actual EDH, with Commander, the game itself. They don't actually have a true problem with it. What the real problem is that Wizards of the Coast is tailoring so much of their product to Commander. And that is what really is kind of pushing things forward and making them not so viable in one-on-one constructed standpoints and more viable in Commander. So you have things like the Initiative, right? Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, one of the Commander sets, right? Even though most people deemed it to be not a Commander set, is a set that came out with a mechanic called the Initiative. The Initiative is much like the Monarch in the way that you have a card that gives you the initiative. And if your opponent attacks you and deals damage to you, then that opponent gets the initiative. The initiative allows you to delve into a dungeon, much like in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. This mechanic has actually ruined Pauper for like a little while. And so much so to the point that at first there was not a lot of love for the initiative mechanic. Nobody ended up really wanting to play it. And then all of a sudden it hit paper and boom, right? Everybody was running the initiative. Everybody was running it. You'd see it in almost every single deck. And the initiative mechanic did so well to the point that the rules committee for Pauper looked at this and went, wow, we shouldn't just have our meta be based around one mechanic. So we're getting them out of here. So they banned several cards that had to deal with the initiative. Not all of them, but a good portion of the Troublemaker cards are now banned from Pauper. You also see this with things like Legacy, right? Hell, even look at Infinity. Infinity's not out yet. And granted, I don't know what its actual course is going to take for things like Legacy and, Vintage and so on and so forth. But even Mark Rosewater had said that Infinity, it's not going to do well competitively in Legacy. So why make a set that is supposed to be used in every Eternal format when you meant it was just supposed to be used for Commander? Because you can't make a Commander-specific set. And even if you did, right, Infinity has its own special, set in and of itself, right? The unsets have been their own little cube for the longest time, and that's where they should have stayed. But now you're going to see them spread across all these other Eternal formats. And guess what? All the other Eternal formats, besides Commander, probably not even going to be using any of this stuff. None of it. The best things the other Eternal formats get is Galaxy Foil Shocklands. That's it. That's all they're going to get. It's just not... there's so much focus on Commander and not enough focus on the actual competitive side of things. And I believe you even see things... This article brings up the fact that Takanuma abandoned Mire is one of the most used cards in Standard right now. This is one of these lands that is a channel land from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. This card sees the most play in Standard, but you then have cards like Sheoldred and Liliana of the Veil that are getting a lot of play in Standard, but I guess not enough to the point of Takenuma, because Takenuma you're at least throwing into other stuff. It's a land, right? Which is kind of a weird way to say that this is the best card being used, because theoretically it's going to be used in every deck that runs black, because why wouldn't you? But the issue at hand is that Sheoldred and Lily and a bunch of the other cards that have less play, or at least statistically, according to this article, have less play than Takenuma Abandoned Mire in Standard, have more play in Commander. And that's just been an ordeal, right? You have a lot of cards that are made for these Standard sets, and because everybody tries to tailor to everything, well, what's the everything that we have here, right? Well, the everything is Commander. Commander is an eternal format, and it's what everybody plays. So could you use some of these cards in Standard? Sure, right? There's tons of cards that have a place in Standard, but it's also the reason why Standard is kind of dying. A lot of people, back when Innistrad Midnight Hunt first came out and switched the Standard over to be Zendikar Rising through Innistrad Midnight Hunt, I saw a lot of LGSs, and more specifically, a lot of players just stop playing Standard. They were upset with the format. They didn't want to play any more of it. It just wasn't fun for them. Also, not to mention, it's a rotating format, and as prices continued to rise throughout the years, it was impossible to keep up with a rotating format that you had to buy new cards for every single time. And if you didn't buy any of these cards, you were going to miss out, because it no longer mattered where you wanted to play Standard, right? Standard just didn't matter. No store wanted to play Standard. They wanted to play Pioneer instead. So why not just get rid of Standard entirely? Because now everybody who's playing Standard is on Arena, and they're playing Standard on there. Standard has quickly become an online only format in Magic the Gathering Arena. And I'm sure maybe some things in MTGO, but I've never really played MTGO, so I don't know. But that's the issue that a bunch of these players are seeing. And again, it is a minority of players, but it is something that is getting some attention, so I figured I'd talk about it. That there are so many cards that are tailored towards the Commander scene and are looked more so as cards that they can use for Commander than they are for cards for Standard. And while Pioneer still gets a decent amount of this stuff and sometimes works out, even Pioneer, they got Ledger Shredder through New Capenna, and Unlicensed Hearse, I think, is the other one. But those two cards, they do well in the Pioneer format, and there's a couple others that do well, but that's where most of the focus is going to if you're looking at a competitive standpoint. It's no longer what's good in Standard. It's what's good in Pioneer and what's good in Commander. And those are the two things that you ever need to worry about. So because of that, Commander is slowly but surely kind of removing the need for a Standard release of things. This is just new cards to add to the fray, more stuff for us to buy, and then add to our decks of either competitive casual play or competitive, like, actual tournament play. But Wizards is, of course, at fault for this. They make a whole bunch of Commander content. They push Commander like nobody's business. And as much as I love the concept of playing with my friends and playing Commander and having a 4-person duel across a big table while everybody's drinking and having a good time, I hate Commander. I'm a competitive player, and I like playing competitive one-on-one formats where my skill versus my opponent's skill is exactly what I care about. It's my 60-card deck that is tailored specifically to make sure that I can defeat my opponent before they can defeat me, etc., right? With the sideboard and everything. But with Commander, it's very easy for 3 people with bad attitudes to simply just go, I don't like this guy's commander, and I frankly, I don't like the shirt he's wearing. So we're going to just all three focus on you instead, and you're going to be out of the game because it's a 3-on-1. There's a lot of commander that I don't enjoy. I also don't enjoy Rule 0. I think that's stupid. But I'm happy for the people who enjoy commander. I'm happy for the people who are having fun playing commander with their friends, and this is what's gotten them into Magic. But the competitive scene is lacking, very much so. And there's a lot of people who don't even want to play Magic competitively, because to do that, you would need to buy a whole ton of cards, and it need to be specific to Pioneer. Pioneer would be so much easier to make strictly the competitive scene level format, but Standard still is, and nobody wants to play Standard. Don't even get me started on Brawl. Brawl was a flop from the beginning, and now Brawl is just a digital only format because nobody's even showing up to tournaments to play Brawl. So there's a lot going on with Commander right now, and these are my personal thoughts on it. I think that Wizards needs to make sure to focus on its competitive scene and let any of the cards that come out that are for the formats they are for naturally flow into things like Commander, right? Have them naturally flow in, have people find out what they want to do with these cards and go, okay, yeah, maybe I can work with this. But there aren't enough cards that are very specific to the competitive one-on-one scene. And because of that, there's a lot of people like myself who kind of just stop playing Magic, because instead of playing, Commander with my friends, I wanted to join the fray and be some heavy competitive player and really test my skill against other players in Magic the Gathering. But you don't get that. It's all Commander. Commander, Commander, Commander. If you're not playing Commander, what are you doing? Why are you not playing Commander? You should only be playing Commander. Oh, you play Standard? Seriously? Who the hell plays Standard in 2022? You're ridiculous. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd be curious to see what everybody's thoughts are on this. And while you're down there leaving that comment, make sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. We are aiming pretty close to our little 500 subscriber giveaway thing that we're going to have up here in the corner. That's a video that you'll go to check out how to win a Verdant Catacombs from the Zendikar Rising Expeditions in non-foil. So feel free to check that video out, and hopefully we'll be hitting 500 subscribers pretty soon, and I can get that thing out for everybody, and we can have a fun, exciting marbles race to figure out who the winner is. So thank you all so much. Again, I do truly appreciate it. You can also check the description down below for a Patreon link if you're looking to support me through that. And as always, I'll see you all very soon. Nerd out.